Welcome back to another football game. My name is Brian Hafferkamp. I'm the designer and creator of Advanced Stats Football and No Huddle Football, which will be coming out soon, which is sort of a quick to medium play football game. And this game here that I'm codenaming Quick Strike Football. So what this is a drive by drive, and every team gets 10 drives. Each team gets 10 drives. Excuse me. And what happens at the end of those 10 drives is the game. You just need two D10s, one D6, preferably, one of the D10s should be a different color. But you could probably get away with not having that if you needed to just roll one at a time. And then a standard deck of cards with, I have 3 aces in here. So I think you can see the other there. So 3 aces. And there is 1 king. Kings are turnovers. Aces are possession enders, so drive ending cards. And basically you just flip cards and then add them up. And if you hit an ace, then you have to make a decision. If you're inside the 30, inside the opponent's 30, you can kick a field goal. If you're outside the 30, you punt the ball. And a turnover, the defensive team takes over at the spot where you are, or let's say you've driven 13 yards and then there's a turnover. So you move the starting position 13 yards. That's where the team takes over. So you'll see it. You'll get the hang of it. And let's go ahead and start out with a roll for the coin toss. So this is going to be Detroit at Minnesota. This is sort of a 2022 pre-play. I've already played the first 2 games. They lost to Green Bay 35-28. Not as good a showing as they had in real life. And then they lost to Philadelphia 20-16, which I also hope doesn't happen this week. So this is week 3, Detroit at Minnesota. Home team, away team. So Minnesota wins the toss. They're going to defer to the second half. So Detroit is going to start with the ball on drive number 1. So we'll start Detroit here on the kickoff. Any kickoffs or punts, we roll to see if there's a run back for a touchdown. I did have one in the second game I played, week number 2. A 0-0 on my dice, so I have a 0. That's going to be a 100, and only on a 100 is a kick returned. So we do that check every time, but no kick return here. And what we do is we take the deck of cards. I like to shuffle them 2 times for every possession. You could certainly shuffle them once or 3 or however many times you want to that you feel comfortable. It's just a standard deck of cards. I have all the numbers, 3 aces and 1 king. So you can see I've removed all the face cards except for those. The more aces you add, the more defenses in the game. The more you take out, the more offensive the game is going to be. I find that 3 is a good number. It kind of keeps variability in the scores. Like I said, 35-28 was one score, 20-16 was another score. So it keeps some good variability in there. One turnover seems to be enough. Out of the cards, it's about a 2% chance or so for every drive. So here we go. Got to go 75 yards. We're starting on the 25, and Detroit has to go 75 yards for a score. So let's see how they do. 3 yards, and then there's a turnover. So you go 3 yards. This is just a little score sheet that I made up. I just created 2 of them. You can see here that this was our 10 drives, 20-16 for the Eagles one. And so we have a turnover after 3 yards. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then the Vikings are going to take over at the 28. There's no, you could roll for a touchdown, I guess, if you wanted to. I don't really do that. But could just as easily do that right here and do a 0 and a 0 or a 10 and a 10 to see if there's a touchdown on the turnover. So Minnesota now only has to go 28 yards for a score on their first drive. So let's see if they can take care of business here. 4, 14, 18, and 24. So they got to go 28 yards. Let's see. Okay, so 34. They do go the 28 yards. And the result is a TD. So Minnesota takes a 7-0 lead. And that's going to put the ball back here on the kickoff. So Detroit with their second drive. Again, this is sort of an abstracted view of football. So nothing is going to be wholly accurate necessarily, other than, you're going to get, relatively decent score results. But I can't determine yet distinctions between the teams. So I'm still thinking about how to do that. Let's go and roll for a kick return for a touchdown, and there's not one. So Detroit, 75 yards to go again. 11, 18, 28, and that ends the drive at 28 yards. So 28, and they're going to have to punt. So let's mark off their 28 yards. So 10, 20, that's 30, and 29, 28. So down to the Minnesota 47. For a punt, you need a D6 and a D10. And that's going to be we read it like this, like a 21. So it's going to be a 21-yard. So thinking about a punt plus return, sort of 21-yard net, 10, 20, and 1. So it's down to the 26-yard line. Is there a punt return for TD? There's not. So Minnesota takes over at their own 26. So they're going to need 74 yards to go for a TD. So let's see if they can do it. Shuffles don't have to be great. You're going to be shuffling every single possession, so do your best. 74 yards. 5, 8, 11, 19, 21, 25, 35, 42, 47, 49, 55, 65. Okay, so we're getting close. 69, and we got to go 74. And that's going to be a score. 69 plus 6 is 75, and we only had to go 74. So they go 74 yards, drive down for the touchdown, and Minnesota takes a 14-0 lead over the Lions. So Lions are going to start at their own 25. Let's see if there's a return for touchdown. Ooh, almost. And so it'll be Detroit ball. They need to go. I guess it should come back here. Detroit's going that way. Doesn't really matter necessarily, but for the sake of presentation. So Detroit, drive number 3. Remember, each team gets 10 drives in the game. So after 5 drives, you basically made it to halftime. 75 yards, 2, 10, 18, 20, 23, 31, 37, 41, 47, 49, 53, 62, 71, so getting close. And that's a score for Detroit as they come back and they go the length of the field for the score. So it's going to be 14-7, Minnesota over Detroit. And just like that, they get themselves back in the ball game. See if Minnesota runs back the kickoff. They do not. So it'll be Minnesota football on their third drive of the game. And they've actually scored TDs on their first two drives, so we'll see if they continue that streak here. They got to go 75 yards. 3, 5, 10, and a punt. So only 10 yards on the drive. And we're going to get a punt. So we go 10, and let's do a punt here. Only 18 yards net. So let's be 10, 20, and then 1, 2. So down to Detroit's going to start at their 47. So excellent field position for the Lions as they begin drive number 4. So let's get a little shuffle here. I need a little automatic card shuffler or something so I can do this while I'm waiting, while I'm doing the other things. All right, so Detroit, their fourth drive, they have to go 53 yards only. Oh, but they get nothing. So they get stymied by the Minnesota defense, and that's going to be a punt as they don't go anywhere. The punt is 23 yards net. So 10, 20, and 1, 2, 3 down to the 30-yard line. Let's see if there's a return for touchdown. No return for touchdown. So Minnesota takes over at their own 30. It's going to be 70 yards to go for a TD. Remember, if they only have to get inside the 30 to go for a field goal attempt. And then on a field goal attempt, it's 1 through 80 is good. 81 to 100 is a field goal no good, a field goal miss. 80 is sort of a generic number, but it will encompass most people. For the NFL, you could probably do 1 to 90 or 1 to 85, or you could just look up the actual percentages and do that as well. All right, 70 yards to go. There is 16, 22, 31, 39, 44, 49, 57, 59, 69. Got 1 more yard to go. And that's a TD for Minnesota as they put another one across the goal line. This 3 out of 4 drives, they have gone the distance. And they take a 21-7 lead over Detroit. So Detroit, is there a return for a touchdown? There is not. So Detroit, their last drive of the half. And it's going to be 75 yards to go for the score. Let's see what they got. 6, 8, 16, 22, 24, 32, and a stop. Did I say 32 or 34? 16, 22, 24, 32. So they're going to have to punt the ball. 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, and 47 yards on the punt. 10, 20, 30, 40, and that's into the end zone, so that'll be a touchback. So Minnesota will start at the 20-yard line. Touchback on punts, I believe, still goes out to the 20. Kickoffs goes out to the 25. I believe that's the rule for everybody now. I know that's the college rule. I think it's the NFL rule too. I was trying to read up on it. I think it's punts and interceptions go out to the 20. And kickoffs on a touchback go out to the 25. So there's no chance for a return for a touchdown on that since there's a touchback. And Minnesota's got to go 80 yards for a score. This is the last drive of the half. They're up 21-7. 15, 25, 33, and a stop. So 33 yards. And we're going to call that halftime. So Detroit got it in the first half. Minnesota's going to get it in the second half for drive number 6. So it sort of flip-flop the alternating starting in the second half. And Minnesota will be going down the field in this one. So kickoff. Let's see if there's a return for a touchdown. And no return for a touchdown. So Minnesota 75 yards to go on their first possession of the second half. 5, 14, 17, 24, 28, 31, 33, 35. What are all these low numbers? 39, 46, 56, 58, 63. So getting close. 68, 78. So that's a TD coming out of the half for Minnesota. That's going to be a touchdown. All they have to do is cross over that 75-yard mark. So they don't have to hit it specifically. Although that might make it more of a challenge for them to hit it specifically. You could also play where it's 75 yards plus 10 yards for the end zone. So they have to, get within 75 to 85 specifically. A couple different ways you could do that. So Detroit down 28-7. I'm hoping this is the way the game goes. Let's see about a run back for TD. Not happening. So 75 yards to go. And Detroit down by 3 scores. 4 yards and out. So not a good series for Detroit, as they're going to have to punt the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4. And get a punt here. Not a great punt result of 11 yards. So 10, 11. So Minnesota's going to take over at the Detroit 40. Only 40 yards to go for a touchdown. Only 10 yards to go for a field goal, which they've just been running up and down the field on Detroit, so they haven't really had to worry about that. So Minnesota starts their 7th drive of the game. And 40 yards to go. 3, 7, 12, 15, 25, 28, 38, and 40 yards. Look at that, right on it. So they go 40 yards for the TD, and Minnesota has been operating with Terminator-like efficiency in this game. So Detroit is going to start their 7th drive. And let's see if they run back the kickoff. They do not. So 75 yards to go for the Lions. They're down 35-7. Game is real ugly. I'm hoping it gets real ugly as a huge Vikings fan. I'm really happy to see the Packers go down in week 1. Hoping for more of that this season. Sorry, Packer fans. And just like that, there's a turnover. So no yards and a turnover, which means Minnesota will take over at the 25. I promise you I'm not doing any tricks with the cards, although I do like to see it. So let's give them a shuffle. Minnesota takes over their 7th drive, or their 8th drive, at the 25 of Detroit. They're already in field goal range, so even if they don't move a muscle from here, they're still in scoring range. All right, 25 yards to go. 7, 16, 22. Is that right? Yeah, 22, 24, and 34. So they go in 25 yards for the touchdown and add another 7 on the board. You can see that we're not doing any sort of extra point tries. Suppose you could do that if you wanted to. Detroit on their 8th drive. Let's see if they run it back. They don't run it back. And the point of this game is speed. The point of this game is a little variation while still playing a game in 15 or 20 minutes or something like that. I don't know how long this is officially going to take. Let's see. We are at about 20 minutes for the video, so yeah, I play a game in less than a half hour. All right, so Detroit, 8th drive of the game, they got to go 75 yards. They go 8 before the drive ends, and they're going to have to punt yet again. Detroit just really struggling. 10, 9, 8. Excuse me. Detroit really struggling in this game to get any sort of offense going. It's going to be a 34-yard net on the punt. 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4. So down to the 33 for Minnesota. They make the catch, and no run back there. So Minnesota with their 9th drive of the game. I have to admit, I picked 9 as like sort of an arbitrary number. It felt like a good amount of scoring. As I played through it, you could certainly adjust that if you wanted to do different eras. Maybe when they were running the ball, there were fewer possessions per game. So 67 yards for the score. That's right. 4, 10, 15, 22, 29, and a stop. So after 29 yards, the drive ends. Let's see, 10, 20, 30, and 29. So they are at the 38. Going to have a punt here. They're not close enough for a field goal. So let's check out the net on the punt. 37. 37 drives it down to the 1-yard line. So the coffin corner punt, let's see if there's any sort of run back on that. Almost, but no. So now Detroit has to go. Not only have they been handled this game by the Vikings defense, now they got to go 99 yards, right? So it just keeps getting good for Jared Goff and the offense on their own 1-yard line. So let's see if they can climb out of this hole and get a score on the board. The other, I was playing yesterday and somebody went 93 yards, I think, for a TD. So I wanted to know, could that even happen? You know, is it even possible? But it is possible. So 7, 17, 26, 35, 43, 53, 58, 68, and a stop. So pretty good drive there as they flip the field. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, minus 1, 2. So they take it down to the 31. Not quite to field goal range, but they did certainly get out of the hole. And let's see on the punt. Punt is 47. That's going to be a touchback, so no chance for a return for Minnesota. Minnesota has 1 drive left, 10th drive of the game. And so that was a really good job by Detroit to get out of the hole. They started at their own 1-yard line. Minnesota's going to start at their 20. And Detroit almost got into field goal position. They haven't scored since their third possession. Minnesota scored on their 8th possession. So this is possession number 10. Last two of the game for Detroit and Minnesota. The score is 42-7. Minnesota ahead, playing at home in front of the home crowd. 14. So we have 80 to go. So that's 17, 25, and a stop. So it's 25 yards. We're going to have a punt, 10, 20, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we get a punt from Minnesota. It's only 12 yards net. 10, 11, 12. 10, 11, 12. So down to the 43. So good field position for Detroit. Let's see if they run it back. They don't. I just always sort of make the assumption. I've rolled a lot of run backs and only had one go for a touchdown. So it was a punt return for a touchdown. I think it was here. Must have been in the Green Bay game. So I had a punt return for a touchdown in that game. Okie doke. This will be Detroit on their final drive of the game. So they're starting from their own 43. They have to go 57 yards for a TD. 11, 18, 24, 30, 39, 43, 46, 49. That's a lot of low numbers. 49, 53. And a turnover. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2, 3. So they get down to the 4-yard line and then they turn it over. Oh, boy. I'm sorry, Detroit. Sorry, Detroit fans. It's bad. So that's the final, right? Okay, so that was their last possession. 14, 21, 28, 35, 42 to 7 is our final. So that is week number 3 of the 2022 pre-play. So you can see 2016 was our final here. A lot of field goals through here, and Minnesota had a late touchdown that made it closer than it was. This was a backbreaker touchdown here. It was 13-9, and then Philly came down, went 75 yards for a touchdown. So this was a killer, 60 yards, and then turned it over. Could have been more points there. Just like this, you get all the way down there, and it's just a killer. So I'm looking to see how is this game accurate at all, or is it not? If you think it's interesting, let me know. I've drawn up some rules for it. I don't know exactly where to. Maybe I'll just post a link to the rules in this video, and you can play it if you want to. What I'm thinking is you could create your own custom cards, right? And so instead of a king, it would be a turnover card, and then you could maybe just roll to see what kind of turnover it was. And instead of these cards here, just ending the drive and then sort of your field position determining where you are, to give you some choices or to allow the teams to decide what happens. So let's say, you hit this card. So you hit that card, and then it says, if your team, if the defense averages, less than 20 points per game, drive ends, and then you have to decide on a punt or a kickoff or a field goal. Or if the offensive team scores more than 25 points per game, the drive continues. Just some different things like that to see if we can add a little variation in there based off of the actual teams. not based off just luck. At this point, everything is just kind of even Steven, and the luck of the draw. There's nothing. It could have just as easily been Detroit, 42-7. So we'll see how we can add some variation in there. But I could just really easily see this being an actual card game that you could just buy. You would buy the deck, and it would have those cards in there and just sort of be ready to play. And then it's based off of whatever teams you use. You could use some really generic stats. So you could use it for college or pro, either one. So that sort of was rolling around in my head. I like it. This is a game that I would actually play. Some football games I don't know that I would play. Even even this other game is a little long for me, maybe. I know some guys like the longer football games, but it's a little bit long even for me. This is the cheat sheet and the board, the game board, and the clock for quick play. Another quick play football game that I created. I think it's gonna go. We're gonna go with no huddle football. I think is sort of the consensus there. So hopefully, be putting a season out for that pretty soon. All right, I think that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you.